Hey guys, Riley here, concealedcarry.com, and I'm pleased to have Rob Leatham with me.
What's up, brother? How are you doing?
Good, man. And we're taking a look at the XDM Elite series. Got a whole lineup of new Elite XDM. Rob, my first competition pistol for action pistol was an XDM 9.
Nice.
And I still have that same gun. My son shoots it in competitions now.
It'll last forever.
But I'm really excited to see some of the changes, the features that you've added to the Elite series here.
We've tried to sharpen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And we've tried to add a few things. Here's a competition shooter, and you being a really good shot can appreciate things that somebody else might not know why they like them, but you will. So this is obviously the 525 version, which is a 5 1/4 inch barrel, has a fiber optic front sight, has an adjustable sight. That's what I wanted on that version of the gun. I wanted the adjustable sight so I could zero it for any load. The mechanism is unchanged from any of the XDMs. They've all been so spotless that we've never really had to do anything to them.
Right.
But the area that you and I will always complain about a gun is the trigger pull.
Sure.
No matter how good it is, we want it to be better.
Right.
So we were able to go in and work on the trigger, reduce the travel a little bit, has a little less over travel, a little less reset distance, and a little less take up.
Yep.
And we changed the materials that the parts are finished with, so it's a little bit smoother, so it actually makes the trigger pull a little bit lighter. But for me, all of that's not as important as the shape of the trigger. You know, I'm not obviously a fashion or fad-oriented person. But when we did the testing with the flat trigger, I immediately liked it better than the arch triggers. And I'm not even certain why.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm putting the flat trigger I already have on some of my other older guns. I couldn't use it till now because we didn't introduce it.
Yeah.
Till just recently. But now I'm okay to put it on.
Now,
Got
do you think
magwells and
that's because of a leverage thing, or?
I think it's just a feel. As my fingers become more and more damaged from hundreds of thousands of rounds,
Right.
I don't have the same sensitivities that I once did. And I think I feel the flat surface more consistently, regardless of if my fingers here on the trigger or here on the trigger, than I did when it sits in the curvature. Because as you're pulling the trigger and it goes, your finger slides down.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm on the curved surface, it's not as consistent a feel for me as it is on the flat surface.
Yeah.
So for whatever the reason is, that's my favorite change really on the gun.
And I'll tell you, I tried this a few times, and the trigger is vastly improved over the original XDM series.
It is. Yeah.
So if you're an XDM fan, you're going to really like that trigger. Yeah. We got a little bit of a bump out on the grip safety, which I think is good.
Yep.
Tell us about the magwell and the magazines and the capacity and all that.
Well, there are two different magwells. There's the large size one, that's the small one. So there's a compact version, which is designed to work with the +2 magazine, which takes you to 21 rounds. Then there's a 22 round magazine, they're long magazine base pads, and it uses a larger magwell. Now all the mags will work in each gun, but the bigger magwell you're holding here, that comes on the 525 with the +2, it's actually below flush, so he doesn't see it.
A little bit easier to see. Yep.
But obviously, competition shooters, you know how that works.
Yeah.
We're looking for anything to gain speed. And the other backside is, for people with big hands, it makes an excellent gripping portion. It adds a little extension there that when you're you've got it, but when you're holding it with someone with a fat hand, they'll feel that, and it creates an excellent index point too.
Yep. I found that on my short hand, it works really well.
See, that's taken it to another spot. So a lot of people, you're a good shot, so you understand how much more important your left hand is than your right hand. Oh, it also has an ambi too.
Yep.
I forgot about that. So it's an ambi slide release, but your support hand on the gun needs to have a place to go. And that ledge on the support hand side both gives it an index point and a leverage point.
Yep.
And I'm glad you said that, because most people don't know
actually, you know, we were kind of talking before we started the video here about recoil forces and energy. And recently I was in your bigger circle class with Seeklander. Great class, by the way.
Thank you.
And, you know, one thing you said there that I hadn't really probably thought in enough depth, you know, was this idea that really what we're countering is rotational energy and, you know, straight back into the body, into the hands, into the arms. I mean, like, I understood that, but I think we probably tend to think about that kind of energy as just like, it's all the same energy.
Yeah,
it comes from the same round fired, but thinking about how we counter recoil and kind of splitting that up, like, well, okay, here's what I can do to counter rotational energy. Here's what I can do to counter this back and forth movement. So, I mean, what would you say about that?
Well, you're right on top of it, but you're stepping into an area for your readership, and people are going to view this that they're not going to understand what you mean.
Right.
The reality is, to control the gun quickly, you have to create movements that not only limit but react to the movement that the gun puts into you. So the gun pushes back, and because you're resisting it at a line lower than the line of force, there's going to be rotation. So the rotation happens this direction and almost always turns people's wrists.
Right.
But the motion back and forth is almost energy, is always lateral energy that's pushing straight into your body. So the reality is to do it right, and your brain will learn how to do it. But to do it right, you literally have to not only push the gun against the recoil, but you have to rotate it down. Now, somebody that screws this up, when they shoot, you'll see them do this.
Right.
Because that's somebody that's doing it wrong. They're not correct.
The timing of this.
Well, not only the timing, but the actual action they're making. Because when you do it, when you're doing it, you'll say the gun doesn't lock back, or you have a dead round or whatever.
Right.
When you go click, you won't see this when you shoot because you're a good shot. You'll see that motion or that motion. That's a good sign.
I hope that's what we see.
That is what you're supposed to see. So that's because you're a good shot, and your brain has learned that this does this, I fight it this way. This does this, I fight it this way. So when the gun goes, unless you're shooting slow fire, if the gun doesn't fire when you expect it to, there has to be an action that you put into it, because it's a predictive action that you're causing, not a reaction to the gun's recoil.
Right.
That's the part that's hard to understand. It isn't the gun kicks and then you control it. It is, you know, when you do this, that the gun's going to do this, so you do that. So this causes, and then it's just timing. It's very difficult.
What are some, just, to keep it simple, a lot of folks watching probably still learning to shoot, right? Mm-hmm. What are some of the basic things that you're working with a newer student with that you would say about, as far as how we might grip and handle this gun to, at least begin the path, down the right path of managing recoil?
Well, for the first shooter, you have to first off make sure they're not scared of the gun going off. So if they're scared of the gun going off, then you almost can't teach them how to shoot, because then you're getting them to try to do something mechanical and overcome a fear. So first off, start with a gun that isn't going to ring their bell.
Right.
Shoot a 22 or shoot
so
an air
right here.
This is about as light kicking as it gets. So don't give them your 2-inch J-frame 357 Magnum and load it with the Buffalo Bore ammo. Give them a break. Let them learn how to shoot. Probably the contact point with the gun is screwed up the most from a new shooter. And you can.
So can you show us?
You could talk about trying to put the gun in line with your arm, but the reality is that positioning is going to be based on your hand on the gun with where your finger falls on the trigger. I can't be behind the gun in a perfect position because I can't reach the trigger. I have very short fingers. So when I grab the gun, I hand it this way, and my finger comes around, and so my grip is off to the side, which works perfect for a two-handed grip. But when you have people contact the gun, make sure their hand's up against the top, make sure their finger can comfortably reach the trigger, and where they touch the trigger doesn't matter as much as you think it does, as long as they can make solid contact with the trigger.
Right.
From then on, it's a matter of holding the gun and learning how to pull the trigger without moving. Most people can't do this when they know the gun's gonna fire. They go to here and they see some sort of rotation like that. If you ever do that, even if the gun goes click when you expect it to, the gun's motion should not be this. The gun's motion should be that. Because that's the direction it's kicking, so this is the direction you push against. So as you're making contact with them and you watch your new shooter flinch, if they do this motion when they shoot, say nothing. That's fine. If they do this motion, you got a problem.
Right.
Now the next position is how you put your support hand on. Get as much of the gun, hand against the gun as you can. And none of this do you ever tell them to relax, because they need to hold on tightly enough that they can control the gun. Okay? There's nothing about relax that causes that to happen. So a firm grip, I'm not saying to choke it to death like it's all the strength, because you have to retain some amount of feel for the trigger, but the grip should be firm enough that your hands don't move around when you fire. Because if you do, I mean, if the gun's moving, every time you see people do this, and they do that every time, well, there's no way for them to ever shoot fast. Because they've readjusted their grip every single shot they fire.
Right.
Firm contact with the gun, very, very tight, very strength, a lot of strength in the grip, and try to create as much rigidity in your wrist as is possible.
Yeah, and that's going to help a lot with that rotational energy.
Oh, yeah.
But then also, a very simple tip, I think, is just making sure you have your weight forward.
Yeah, most people stand in a balanced position. If you stand in a balanced, hit me in the front, hit my hands. If you stand in a balanced position and he pushes me back, that's what my body does, so I have no choice but to do this. That puts me in this position. So if I know that when I pull the trigger it's going to hit me, maybe I do that, and when he stops, what happens? I move forward because my predictive action is that when I pull the trigger, the gun's going to fire, it's going to go back, and I'm going to go forward. So when someone loses their balance to the front, don't worry about it.
Yeah, so we put some rounds through the XDM Elite.
Yeah, let's shoot that sucker.
Kind of like, you know, let's see if we can keep it on the steel here and go fast and do exactly what you're talking about here.
Well, I know you can.
Well, I was hoping you would demonstrate first.
Well, I'm glad. Don't put me on the spot. All right, just shoot around?
Sure.
All right, well, here's what we're doing. I better not shoot you around.
All right.
So if you watch when I'm shooting, it's hard to tell, but I'm always pushing against the gun when I'm shooting quickly. There's no relax.
All right, let's give it a shot.
All you gotta learn is that step, obviously very, very fast. So the step is to then, when you gotta shoot the more accurate shot, which remember the trigger pull is what causes that reactive motion or the pre-active motion to move the gun.
Right.
You have to be able to time it so when you pull the trigger slow, the action doesn't come in too soon. When you pull it slow, it may or might not ever happen. When you pull it fast, that's when the action comes. And that's the changing gear thing.
Yeah, that's the key. Well, Rob, thanks for showing us the XDM Elite
It's a
and for the
pleasure to
tips.
see you again.
You know, guys, get out to the range, practice. You know, think about this stuff. Take a class. You got some great classes.
You can't dry fire your way into gun control, kids.
So, guys, get out there and practice. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate your time today, brother.
Man, thank you.
You're awesome.
It's good seeing you.